Hey, this is Pastor Josh with Revival Worship. Just wanted to make a quick little video for you on how we utilize Ableton. We use Ableton Live 11. That's the latest generation, the latest version of Ableton. And we use that every single Sunday, every Wednesday, anytime that we're performing, we're using Ableton. And it does a lot of things for us. I know Ableton's been around for a while now, but we just wanted to make this quick video to sort of explain how we utilize it. So firstly, we've done a couple of things regarding MultiTracks before, but just a review of that, go to your favorite source of MultiTracks. We use MultiTracks.com. They have just about everything from CCM music is from contemporary Christian music is here. And so we will have found the song and downloaded that song. And so once we download the multitrack from MultiTracks.com, we end up with this folder that looks like this. This is the one for Do It Again. And so there's a couple of things in here, the album artwork, stuff like that. There's a MultiTracks folder, and so inside this folder is each individual part. So that's a alto vocal part, it's the bass, the instrument, background vocalist, click, drums, so all the individual parts are broken in this multitrack. However, there is another, it's also named multitrack, but it has a little suffix here that is .als, and that is an Ableton Live session. And that's exactly what we're going to use. We use Ableton Live here. And so when you click on that multitrack.als file, it brings up something that looks very much like this. It is populated with all those tracks, those same tracks that were found in that multitrack folder that we were looking at earlier. They're already populated in here. They each have their own track number. Everything's laid out. Most of the time they are grouped by color as well. So you see that everything that is percussion is red. Everything that is sub is in brown. Everything that is a stringed or acoustic instrument is in blue. All the keys are in green, and then all the vocalists are in white. And of course, the cue, click and guide, things like that are in white up here at the top. Actually, BGVs and choir are in yellow. I think I just said white, but they're in yellow, and the click and guide are in white at the top there. So everything's just grouped out. It's great. All the project info is already up at this top left corner here. It's already been populated because this is essentially not just the stems, which is what all these tracks are. Each of these things in here are those stems that we were looking at. They're all just being played at the same time, and that's what creates the song as we know it, the background of the song that we know it. But this is actually the Ableton Live project file, if you want to think about it that way. And so this brings all the project information over. It brings, if there is any kind of, let's see, let's open another one here that has some tempo changes to it. Let's do Battle Belongs. So we'll open Battle Belongs quickly here. So this one doesn't have any tempo change to it, but it has a time signature change that happens throughout the song. And so we have this measure of 2/4 and then a measure of 4/4 that happens throughout the song. And so all that information is brought over. I didn't have to put any of that information in there. It was all here, all these headers, all these locators that are here that show chorus, verse 3, verse 4, bridges. Like, it just lets you know if I wanted to go back and just listen to verse 4, I can just simply click there and press play, and we are listening to verse 4 there. So it is, it really is just having the project file that in this form really does make a world of difference, because now we can go in and whoever we have on stage that particular Sunday or Wednesday, I can mute the drums because I'll have a drummer. I can mute the bass player because I'll have a bass player. AG and EG, we can mute some of those. You can mute a piano, and maybe whether or not I need to mute an organ, like turning down if I wanted more or less choir. You can see this one's reduced by 3 decibels. This choir channel is reduced, and so it stays in the mix. It's just reduced. I didn't like how much was there, so I reduced it in the mix, and so we have full control over each and every stem that is associated with any particular song. And so if I wanted the lead line from the electric guitar, if I wanted it louder, then we go over here and, you know, we turn it up as loud as we can get it. We just, you know, turn it wherever we want to turn it to. And so it gives us a lot of flexibility over the track itself. The other beautiful side of this is that when you pile a bunch of these together, you don't lose any of that flexibility. That's some of the downside that we deal with things like GarageBand or Logic, is that a lot of times we will bounce or shake down a track into a stereo track. So we'll turn all 23 of these stem tracks right here, and we'll turn it into one stereo track that essentially has two tracks to it, because that's much easier for our computers to process if it's all shook down and just to a stereo track. But with Ableton, we actually have a little CPU counter that is up here at the top. And so if we were to start this track, like I said, it's 23 that are found in here, and you can see there is not very much CPU usage is happening even with 23 tracks. We have some that have like 40 tracks in it, and it's the same way. It gets up to like 4 or 5, something like that. So we can take multiple of these and build them into our Sunday or Wednesday services. So I already have a Sunday project that I have here. We're going to take our Ableton live session here. So this is our Sunday morning session, and I have everything drug over. And so we have I Thank God, but everything, I have it in these little collapsed groups that are here. So we have the guide is still here. Obviously the drums and bass, stuff like that are muted. The things are pulled out or turned down the way they're supposed to be. And so I still have full access over this. If something were to happen in the last minute, I need to add or take away a part, I can easily do that without, you know, in contrast to having a shook down stereo track that I would have to rebounce and re-render to be able to make any changes to it as far as specific instrumentation. So we still have full control over the tracks. Every single part, every single stem is still found within these groups here. And I have them drug out. This is very similar to the way most DAWs are laid out, but time is left to right. And these are measures. These numbers at the top right here are measure numbers. And then at the very bottom down here, we actually have a time signature, time register, if you want to think about it that way. And both the measures and the time are relative to the tempo that's being reflected in that given space. So you'll see right here, it's 130 beats per minute, and we have it for this first 256 measures of this project is at 130 beats. And so that covers almost 8 minutes, but then we can see that, you know, that was 4 sections, dark gray, light gray, dark gray, light gray. So that's 4 sections. If we do 4 sections over here, we're going from 8 minutes to 22 minutes. So we're covering a lot more ground because this is a slower tempo, if that makes sense. And so everything is based on the tempo that is reflected in the project here. We are reflecting different tempos because we're doing 3 different songs, and it's very rare to have even 2 songs that line up to be the exact same tempo. And so we want our click track, we want the click to be running at the same rate that the rest of the track is. So we change our project information, we automate it here at the bottom so that it reflects wherever we are at the moment. So Ableton generates a metronome, it generates a click. That's what this little icon up here is. There are lots of settings and little parameters that you can mess with here to adjust the sound and the rate and rhythm and all that kind of stuff. But I have mine set up, I turn it on, and then if you also notice in the rest of these, the click track has been muted. So we're not actually using the click that came with the multi-track. I want the click that Ableton is going to generate. What that means is that if we use the click that came with I Thank God, it ends with the song. It ends right here. And so I don't necessarily want that. I may want to go back and do another part of I Thank God, or if we want to celebrate as a band, celebrate through the end of I Thank God, I need that click to continue to run. So we don't let the stem provide the click track for us. We allow Ableton to provide the click track for us. And that is why we have to change the tempo and time signatures and all that good stuff of each song in this particular project. So this Sunday morning project, I Thank God's our first song for Sunday morning. It's 130 beats per minute. So Rest on Us is the next song that we have. And so at its locator, we have the tempo coming down to 72 beats per minute. And all that's automated. It goes directly, as soon as we start Rest on Us, it's at 72 beats per minute because of the automation that's here. And then Thank You Jesus for the Blood is the same way at 61 beats per minute. You'll also see that that there is some automation down here at the very, very bottom. So this is a slowed down tempo, slowed down ending of Thank You Jesus for the Blood. And so we need that click, that slowed down tempo to be reflected in our ears so that we're in time with the track still. And so we have these changes, and they're very minute changes. You can see that's like 52.91, 46.29. There are all these weird little changes that are in here, but that is the retard, that is the slowdown that happens on the end of the song there. And then it jumps back up once the song is over with, back to 61. And so all that is built in for us through automation. So it's a great little tool to utilize so that when you're in the middle of a worship service, you're not trying to do things. You can automate things so that your job is much easier. You can focus on leading people into worship. You can focus on playing your part or whatever it is. You can focus on what your job is for that particular worship set. So it really is a great opportunity to learn automation because it really helps us out a lot. The other thing that Ableton really offers that is different from most others is the locators that I mentioned here at the top. And so I've made a locator for each of the beginnings of our songs that we do on Sunday morning. And of course, I'm clicking through them right now, and you would think, well, that doesn't seem very convenient to pick up a mouse in the middle of a worship set to get over to your second song. And you're right, it wouldn't be. So you can tie anything in Ableton to either a key command on the keyboard, the physical like QWERTY keyboard that is with your computer, or you can tie it via MIDI, and that's this MIDI thing here, to anything that is MIDI. So a electric piano or any sort of input device that is MIDI, and then this is the key that allows you to tie the keyboard keys to things here. So to different locators. And so you can see that I have 1, 2, and 3 tied to locators 1, 2, and 3, and that is I Thank God, Rest on Us, and Thank You Jesus for the Blood, keys 1, 2, and 3. And so when we cut this off, you'll see that right now this is where we are in time. This is my playhead is on Rest on Us right now, but if I hit number 1 at the top of my keyboard, it jumps over to I Thank God. You can kind of see it, it's halfway in there. So back to Rest on Us, and then number 3 is Thank You Jesus for the Blood. And so as we end a song, as a song plays out through the end of it, so that, we have this little play that happens right there. So we can celebrate the end of the song as a band and have that click continuing to run through. So it's still running in the background. We can do whatever we want right there. I could go back and do the bridge again, whatever it is, because we haven't gotten away from the tempo of the song. Whenever we're ready for it, I'll reach over and just tap number 2, and at the next downbeat, it changes our tempo because our tempo has been moved to 72, and it's given us our cues for Rest on Us. And so everything is there, ready to go. I didn't have to do anything but reach over and hit number 2. I could also tie it to, most keyboards have a MIDI section to them where you can just tie a user-assigned keys, is what some of them call them. But you can take that user-assigned key and make it a MIDI signal to be the next song, next locator, or first locator, or however you want to break it up. You can give yourself some flexibility in the set. Because you have a plan, you know what the set is going into it, but there may be a moment where you need to spend some time before you get into that third song. You may need to spend a little bit more time setting up the mood or the atmosphere or whatever it is. And so Ableton gives you that flexibility as a worship leader where you can plan yourself into a place of spontaneity. And that sounds like an odd concept. It's something that I teach our musicians and our vocalists all the time. But we want to plan ourselves. We want to practice and prepare ourselves into a place of spontaneity. Because if we're not ready to be spontaneous, then there's no way we're going to be spontaneous. And so we want to prepare ourselves have all this information here, utilize all the technology that Ableton brings to the table, and again, utilize that so that we can most effectively lead people into worship, so that we can have smoother sets, so that we can have better rehearsals, so that we can have better musicians, more prepared musicians. There's just a plethora of things that Ableton brings to the table when you start utilizing it as a band, as a musician. So even if you don't have a band, if you're just playing by yourself, Ableton is a fantastic investment. It does cost you some money to get into it, but it is a great piece of software that will help you just endlessly as you create music and learn to play other people's music as well. So I hope that you found this interesting, insightful, helpful in some way. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below. We'd love to answer those for you. And we'll see you in the next video. Thank you guys very much.